Faith Forged in Fire, where we dive headfirst into the unique challenges and triumphs that comes with being a firefighter, all while exploring what it means to live out a biblical worldview. Join us as we find hope, perseverance, and faith in the midst of the heat and chaos. Welcome to the podcast.
That we are.
I don't know about you, but I think we are.
I think so. We better,
I was just warming up my vocals.
We better, it's getting to be that time where we gotta get.
How come we can't keep it together for a whole month? By the end of the month, the quality in our focus just goes down.
I was gone for a month. Has been a wreck.
He was gone for half an episode.
The first episode was good. We had a good guest.
Stumbling in all disheveled.
Yeah.
Well, the first episode was good.
Yeah, then it all went.
Oh, that's right. Because I forget that we did these out of chronological order. It's like
chronological. That's a big word for you.
Yeah, chronological.
At this time, too.
Hey, Steve, say ffifpodcast@gmail.com now.
Backwards.
Cath Pod.
Careful.
Cath Pod sounds like a very uncomfortable situation to be in.
That sounds like that should be the next flavor of coffee.
Cath Pod.
Hey, do you have K-Cups? No, but I've got Cath Pods.
Well, as you see, we're having a good time.
Wow. 121 and it's derailed.
It's already.
Yeah.
It was like 149 last time.
We got to find out. We got to try to break a record. How fast can we derail the podcast? What is it? So right now it's like 121.
It was derailed before we started recording.
Yeah.
We just didn't
True.
catch all
That's
that.
true.
I think the last podcast was pretty derailed right off.
Yeah.
Right.
Yeah.
Right.
Yeah.
Right. Okay. Now we got to find out how far we can go before we can derail one.
Yeah, absolutely. Well, hey, Steve,
That's no fun. I'm out of here.
why are we here tonight?
Well, I was just going to get to that. I was just going to
This
get
morning.
to that.
Sorry, not tonight. It is
Well, welcome back.
Friday, right? The 27th?
6:35 in the morning.
Yes.
All right.
Welcome back to the Faith Forged and Fire podcast, where
Sun's up already.
sun's up already. So
Where we try to keep the train on the track for 5 minutes out of a 40-minute episode.
We try, but they're listening to it on the morning commute.
Yes, we are. So, talking about your morning commute, here's a subject that goes along with your morning commute.
Coffee.
Good call. I hope you filled up on red flannel coffee coat.
I could see that coming a mile away.
Well, luckily,
Steve couldn't see it coming a mile away.
So
That was as predictable as you guys predicted I was going to be late.
Steve walked into that one.
He did.
That was the best.
Well, you do need your red flannel coffee as you get into your career, is what we're talking about today.
Is that what we're talking about today?
We're talking about careers today. We are talking about careers.
What's this called again?
Well, hold on a minute. Let me get to that.
Okay.
So today is, what is the secret of finding rest in a demanding career? So
Did we talk about this last week?
no.
No. Fight at peace and chaos.
Peace and chaos.
Let me just bring up Psalm 23 again. Haven't had enough of it.
So no. Well, we want to, this is a good subject because I have dealt with this numerous times in my careers. So
Well, let me say this real quick too, because maybe you're listening to this as a volunteer and you're going like, well, maybe I have a fairly easy career or whatever. I don't know. We cater to both, right? We talk to people who are in the full-time career department. But here's the thing is, especially as a volunteer firefighter or a paid on call, you kind of have two, in a sense, careers, right? Now, we don't consider the second one a career, but like for me, I have a career and then I fit the other side of it in. So it still is. So
this
busy.
career is a broad term of fire department, non-fire department. This is just a career because there's other demanding
kind of the demand of the life of a first responder.
Yes. Well, this is definitely.
And then you got the best of both worlds where full-time on a paid on call.
Right. So then he gets to go run calls
So-
in the middle of the night and during the day.
then go to work the next day at the same place. So
Yeah.
and then sales,
and
podcasting.
honestly, the fire service, fire service is a demanding.
Well, my job's not demanding. I only work 1 day a week. So
wow,
but
2 hours.
as we know, the fire service is a demanding career. For anybody that doesn't know that, there are, especially if you are a full-time firefighter, there's a lot of demands that come in that with balancing home life, your career, but also there's careers outside that are demanding too, right? So we want to point this in a fire aspect, but also make it a broader aspect. And I think when we talk about careers, I always want to preface, is that everybody looks at their career. I mean, obviously we have to work a job, right? We have to provide. We're called to provide for our families, right? So we want to, make sure that, careers are different for everybody. Some people are very, because there's different reasons why careers are demanding. And so that we will get into that. But, it's different for everybody. Some people they're very career motivated. Some people are not so career motivated. So there's different spectrums of how people view their career. So I think it's really important to throw that out there, because if not, you'll get an email from someone, nasty gram from someone that's upset because
No, we won't. You will.
I will. Yeah,
Well, there's one person. Who
the email guy, the guy that checks the email.
And
And when he
me.
forwards it, I go delete. Steve's problem.
Yeah. So
Which is funny because actually my work email, I forward them to Steve. I'm like, not my problem.
and I'm like, Jake, why am I getting these emails?
We got all these episodes we thought were like really good listener given questions is really Jake trying to get us to solve all his problems for him at work.
Oh, yeah. Certainly, yeah.
But you think of careers, you think of work, right? And it's kind of as I was pondering this subject, I was thinking about, where did it all start? And in the book of Genesis, what did God do? God created the heavens and the earth, right? And he did for 6 days. He created everything that we see, was created. So we know that work is important. It was important to God, right? So it should be important to us as well. So it's for, and I say this for those, I guess for some of the people that don't like to work, it's God, because there's many of those out there. But
if you don't like, you just shut this podcast off. This is not for you.
Exactly, because the Lord.
I know where you were going with it.
Yeah.
You just didn't want to say it. It's okay.
Yeah, thank you very much, Jake. I appreciate that. But God did declare that His work was very good, and so when He viewed the fruit of His labor, God took pleasure in the outcome of His work. So, with that said, we're created in His image. So if God was pleased with His work and He was a work and we're created in His image, that means that work should be important to us too. And we should value the work that we do in our careers as well. So I just wanted to kind of preference that.
And interestingly enough, there's more than one place in Scripture that, especially when it talks about our responsibility to minister to people, care for people, and I'm not talking about just pastors, but Christians overall, it literally tells us to work to the point of exhaustion. So there's work is very much whether it's our career, but there's work needs to be happening in our lives.
You said something, Steve, that's very interesting. You said that we are all created in His image, and so we are innately designed to work.
Yes.
Right.
Yes.
How would you describe that to somebody? Say there's a non-Christian listening. How would you describe that we are created in God's image? I'd love to get your take on this too. And if you want to leave, I'll drag you in and ask you a very quick question. Similarly.
Well, it's for someone that doesn't believe, that's a non-believer, that's a tough one, right? Because they already think that there is no such thing as a God. So how do you say that?
Well, what if they're like agnostic, right? They accept that there is a higher being.
Or even just somebody that's listening that's searching, but doesn't understand this idea of being made in the image of God.
Right.
Well, I don't know. You're gonna have to jump on that.
You don't know?
What's that?
All right, we're changing the topic.
No. I mean, I know what I'm just saying. It's a hard thing to talk about with someone that doesn't believe.
But the question is, how are we made in the image of God? And we
Right.
can go really deep, or we can go less deep. Both our intellects, our emotions, our will, we have those things. We don't. God is a spirit, as in, so the Bible says nobody has seen God. We saw Him through Jesus, who took on the form of man. But we can have His character. We have the will and the ability to decisions. We have all of those things like God does. It is not perfect like his. We are not all powerful like him, but we are made. In fact, not long ago, we were talking about this in our church. And one of the best ways to think about this is when somebody looks in the mirror, like if they were to say they were to look in a mirror, if you turn the mirror at like a 45-degree angle, right? So kind of if you're looking on screen, like you look in the mirror where I am, but what are you going to see? Where the way we're sitting, you're going to see Jake. It's kind of the same idea, made in the image of God. When people see us, what should they see? They should see God. And even so, we bear his character. We don't always live it, but we're supposed to.
We have some of the attributes, like in the sense of God loves, we love.
Right.
God has showed anger. We are angry.
Well, that's our emotions, right? All of that.
Yeah.
But the problem is we've ruined it it has been ruined with sin.
Right.
Yes.
Right.
So
Absolutely.
it does not. You can't just look at any person and say those are the attributes of God. No. Even as a Christian, it's hard to live those attributes.
Would you
of
go
God.
as far as saying that God created us as a Trinity, as He is a Trinity?
Well, no, I would not say as a Trinity, as He is a Trinity. No, but we are made up of three parts: our intellect, our emotions, and our will.
Right.
Intellect, emotion, and will, and then we have a body and we
Right,
have a
right.
spirit.
Yeah. I guess
we have
that's all I was
the
getting at.
body
Yeah,
and we
was
have
that.
the spirit. Yeah.
Yeah, those three facets of it.
Right.
Okay. And no, that's good. That's good stuff.
Oh, no,
So-
we change it to this. So,
Scrap. So
that.
it's a scrap my notes. There goes my notes. But no, we really want to, how do we, in a demanding career, let's now gear it back towards the fire side of things, because then we can ask questions here. But really, what are, one of the things that I look at is, and let's go back to my original example about, the creation, right? What did God do on the seventh day? He rested, right?
Yep.
So if God rested, he's letting us know, he's giving us something that we should let us know, is that we need to be able to find rest. And in those demanding careers, we have to find rest. And how do we do that, right? And I think some of that is done on how the individual is geared, right? Because as I was saying before about careers and how everybody sees their career, we all work a job, but we all view our careers a little bit differently, meaning what we want to get out of our career. Right. So like, for example, and this is sad because I've seen this time and time again, especially in the fire service. And I'll go back to kind of something I noticed or a story that I tell sometimes, but some people are so much about making money that's like their number one goal. I want to make money. Okay. And if you're motivated that way, well, your actions will reflect that, right? So meaning, you can do your 40 hours a week. No, I want to do 80 because I want to make the money, or whatever. I want to do overtime and all this kind of stuff, right? So unfortunately, you're in a demanding career, and now you've made it more demanding because you have taken upon yourself. So I guess that's where I was kind of going with my original thing. And, a story that comes up with that is back in the day when I worked for the fire service, I was in a position where I knew a lot of members. And in my early days of the fire service and the department I was at, it was great times, great leadership, great times, whatnot. Well, what would happen was many of these guys would talk to me and go, man, working, loving being at the station, working lots of overtime, whatnot. And I remember years later when I left, some of those same exact people you could just see it in their face, and they're truly sad, saying, Steve, if I was able to go back, I would do it all over because I missed out on everything that was important, right? Because I was so concerned about the money that I missed out everything else. And I never forgot that. And that really helped me with how I view career in the sense of my family, my faith, all that kind of stuff, and how I relate all that. So,
Well, and it's not just about money either. It's about, I think the fire service is different in the way that if you're in the fire service, there's some bone in your body towards service.
sure.
Right?
Sure.
You're doing it to serve others. So therefore we talked about this, I think it was last month, it's hard for us to say no.
Yeah.
And I mentioned talking to one of the retired battalion chiefs, and he said, we're just wired to serve, to be the answer to people's problems.
Yeah.
So that we have that side of it. You have the side of not everybody is that way, but there are some who really take a lot of pride in being in the fire service. And then you have, because of the fire service being what it is, you have all these extracurriculars you have.
Sure.
You know, especially if you're on a larger department, you have different, you know, like dive team and tech rescue, or you know, here you can even do that through the county. There's just all these different things you can do. You can be on the color, or the not the color guard. The color guard is
honor
part
guard?
of the honor guard. Thank you.
Yeah.
There's just so many different things you can do, whether it's at the, you know, here, like I said, with us being paid on call, still the county has all these, just so many things. And we want to do it for different reasons. You know, it might not be money is my point. It might be out of just pride for the fire service. It might be because we can't say no to somebody. There's a lot of reasons. I think within the first responder community, because I watch it with police, I watch it with EMS, I watch it with fire, or with fire service. Yeah, I've hit all three of them.
Yeah.
And it's training. There's always another training you can do. There's always, it's different in that way. You could give your entire life and never run out of things to do.
And that's the other extreme of it, right? You get the people who put their full identity into their job.
I was actually going to get there. That's one of the things I was going to say.
And I'll tell you, and I've seen it, and I'll tell you, if you've ever worked a paid on call department, I'm sure you've seen it. And if you get offended by this, it's because you're that guy. The guys that firefighter license plate, bumper stickers, lights everywhere. I mean, their car is plastered and stuff. All they wear is fire stuff. You know, they're just decked out like a...
Hey, easy now. Could it be that all I wear is fire stuff because that's what
you're
I
on call all
have?
the time?
Yeah, that's all I have.
I mean, I get it for free, so...
So the next episode, I am going to come in here wearing just the clothes that I have that have nothing to do with the fire department.
Yeah. Well,
Get ready to edit.
Hey, can you put those little like bars, you know, or can you like blur them
black
out?
bars, yeah.
Can you blur them out? But you know what I mean.
I
It's
know
the,
what
it's
you
the
mean,
people
yeah.
who go way over
Right.
top
Well,
on that stuff and
And ask for the discount.
ask for the discount
Every time.
everywhere they go.
yeah.
I'm a firefighter. I need
That might even
And the
be a
worst-
bad illustration right there, only from the standpoint that those are usually guys that actually never show up for anything.
Yeah,
and never do training.
The t-shirt participants. We've talked about them before.
Yeah.
The guys that take their badge off their Class A so that they can flash it whenever they get an opportunity, and it's just like, oh my goodness. But you know, and there's cops out there the same way. But anyway, but that's the point. Is they put their identity into their job, but then something happens, they get hurt or they get laid off or something, and then they have
everything.
an identity crisis, right?
Well, it's everything to them, and I've seen that again working for a larger department. You see that very commonly, where that shirt never comes off, and it's always like, you know, do you see who I work for, kind of thing. And you point to the back, and it's like, listen, dude, you know, I don't care where you're at. When that tone goes off, it's all the same stuff, right?
Yeah.
It's just, you know, but so it was interesting you said that. When I first got involved in the fire service, I went through a fire academy at a community college in Arizona. This, you know, many 20 years ago, you know, something like that. And I remember that's when Backdraft came out, and that was a big thing, you know, because all the young kids are like, it was just that rah win one for the Gipper, because it was like you could just see that these guys, like, they lived, eat, breathe everything. And I'll never forget this. We had our lead instructor at the time worked at a local department in the Phoenix area at the time, and this guy took us, all of us, and we ran up the tower, and we got to the top of the tower, and he tells this story. He goes, I want to just sit with me for a minute, and you want to tell a story about a person he knew that basically, like, just, you know, was doing that very thing. It was an identity and eat, breathe, and all that kind of stuff. And this individual had issues because of it, and they had to realize that they had to break away and have a life outside of it. And he goes, that person was me. And he was basically saying, this is just a job. Remember, it's just a job. This is not your life. You have a life outside of this. And I never forgot that. It was a really cool thing he did.
I'm sorry, go ahead.
Sometimes that's hard, though, because like PJ said earlier, there's a bone in us. It's part of us.
Yeah. Yeah.
So yeah, it's just a job, but it's also for a lot of us, it's who we are.
Right.
It is. It is.
You know, I don't care where you at. You know, if you're at a mall
Right.
and somebody falls and gets hurt,
Sure.
PJ isn't going to go like, and keep walking.
Right.
PJ's wired to go help.
Right.
Sure.
So it is tough.
It is
but yeah,
tough.
you have to be able to.
But you have to be able to learn to do it. So
And in some ways, it can be harder in the paid on call world because
yeah.
in the career world, you have your shift and you go home, and often you are by choice coming in and working overtime.
Yeah. Right. Yeah.
Whereas for me, I go work my job that is lots of hours of work, and then the pager goes off.
Yes.
And now I can either sit home and rest and ignore it, and then sit there like, well, I'm not doing what I signed up. Number one, I'm not doing what I signed up to do. There's somebody who needs help while I'm sitting on my tuchus.
Right.
You know, it's not. If you're doing it for the right reasons, you go. You know, we had Olivia on here.
I was just going to say that.
Early on, and she
Yep.
even talked about like, yeah, Dad, you've left for my birthdays and you've left for different things, but we knew that my birthday was not as important as helping someone in that moment.
Yeah.
And so that's why it's really hard to
It is.
take that break.
Have we ever talked? Maybe we're talking about it now. Have we talked about that specifically with paid on call on how to manage that? Because being a paid on call firefighter, it's an interruption to your life, to your
Right.
daily
Yeah.
life, and
Right.
I'm not trying to downplay it at all. It's just truly, objectively, what it is it's an
is.
interruption
It
to
is.
your
Well-
daily life. So how do you choose when to go and when not to go? How do you manage that? How do you balance that?
Well, I think that's tough in your world because, like you're saying, first off, you're geared for it, but how do you turn it off? Now, let me go back to
Especially when he lives.
down the street. But let me
Right.
But let me
block away.
So
Yeah.
hold on though.
Yeah.
In my case, I'm a pastor. I work. That's my full-time job. But the church is kind enough to let me run calls during the day when I would be working, right? So I'm working. But what that does now is that pushes whatever I'm doing. So I get a fire call and I'm gone for a couple hours. Well, the work that I was doing is still there. So I have to do that. So maybe later in the night I'm not running a fire call, but I'm working because I did run a fire call earlier.
Right.
So there's that side of it, as well as because I run as often as I do, I'll get a phone call from some of the guys. They just assume that I'm coming because I go so often.
Yeah.
And then that weighs, kind of to your point, Jake, that weighs. I live very close. And so that weighs on me of, well, they might be assuming I'm going and maybe nobody else is going, or, there's just a lot of ways that's a struggle.
So maybe it would be one of those things where you just set boundaries, and you set boundaries at the department to say, I can't be available 24 hours a day anymore. There's got to be some nights where I just can't run. I got to be with my family or whatever. And you have to be able to say, because in all reality, as the department, the chief they can't just rely on you. I mean, you have to have.
Well, and I don't. If you're listening, people listen. I'm not like a one man band. I don't.
No. But you were saying though is that so many people rely on you because you go to so many calls where maybe some people go, well, I don't have to worry about it. PJ will be there. I don't have to worry about it. Where it's like maybe you set a boundary saying, listen, guys, maybe Monday, Tuesday, Wednesday nights, I just can't run. I got to be with my family. I got to spend that time, and I got to turn the phone off or something. Like I don't know if you're able to do that or not. I don't know what the requirement is as being a volunteer. I don't know.
So then let's throw in another dynamic. You're paid on call, but you're also the full-time firefighter for that department. So how do you?
So let's put it this way: he
How do you
gets
balance
no
that?
break.
That's what I mean.
He leaves work and then gets called back to work.
That's what I'm saying.
For
But that-
me, when the tones go off, it is a different thing.
That's the point I'm
Right.
making. But that's,
I'm just trying
that's
to
what
drive
I'm trying
that
to-
home for
yes,
people.
Yeah, 100%. So
So
now
he
your full-time job
is
has
being
been running calls all day.
and then his side gig is
And
getting
now
up in the
your
middle of the night
side-
and running the
Yeah.
same thing. You guys get tired of going to work. He gets up in the middle of the night, gets called back into work.
Yeah.
yeah.
And it makes it difficult. I think it probably would have been better 20 years ago when I was a little more gung-ho, a little younger, wanting to do it a lot more. And now it's to the point where I've got to realize that I've got to do some of that separation. You know, I probably don't run as many calls in the middle of the night as I
Right.
should, but, you know, I try. But, yeah,
I think
there
you
is
do a
point.
decent job because I'll listen when you guys get certain calls and I'm like, oh, I don't hear car one calling in service. I don't hear car one taking command.
Yeah.
Right.
But that's also a level of, in his case, even saying, I don't have to be the guy either. I might be the chief, but I'm going to trust my team. And I
Yeah,
don't, because that's a whole
That's-
nother level.
That's an advantage I have is out of how many ever we got on the roster that are active, 18, there's probably 14, and it's nothing against the other people. It's just that they're so young
Right.
that I don't, and I didn't feel that way when I was I hate saying that, just a firefighter. I wasn't an officer. I didn't care if an officer showed up or not. I liked it better when they weren't,
Right.
like back
Yeah.
when you were on there.
Oh, yeah.
We run a medical call. We didn't need an officer there.
Yeah.
Right.
Yeah.
Who cared if an officer was there? We knew what we were doing. We didn't need to be babysat. So, and that's a huge advantage that I have is that everybody that can run a medical call that's cleared to drive a truck and run a medical call, and there's a couple on there that can't drive yet. I don't think they need an officer on scene.
Right.
Some of them want one, and okay, I get that, but you don't need one. You know what you're doing.
You also have other officers too.
Yeah, now, we've expanded that quite a bit just lately. So
Right.
we went from 2 officers to 5
Right.
just last month.
But I'm in that. I'm not an officer. But
exactly.
I don't think twice when I show up and one's not there because they couldn't make it.
Yep.
It is what it
yeah.
is.
Oh, yeah.
You just go.
It's just
and then obviously there's that responsibility, right? You have a duty to. I remember running a car accident, an injury accident, alone, because nobody else called in the service, officer
Right.
or otherwise, and it was just like, okay, and I needed the help. I called for mutual aid
Right.
because there's nobody else to help me. So
Yep.
but you have to trust that your people are well trained enough to make that decision. But the root of all of this is how do you balance that life of being a full-time firefighter and a paid-on-call firefighter for the same department?
it's hard to balance.
I bet. Well, especially, your kids are older now, but you have grandkids that you want to see and spend time with, and I know you do often.
Right.
And so how is that a time where you're just like, okay, I got the grandkids, we're gonna shut that off.
Before, they always, and I won't throw him under the bus, Chief Drake always said, family, faith, and then fire.
I'm sorry. I thought you said I'm not throwing it, and then just said his name, but you're
but-
not talking about him.
Yeah,
Yeah.
well, he's one of
you
the
are.
things that he always said.
Oh, yeah.
Yeah, it was that your faith had to come
Yep.
first, then your family,
Yep.
and then the fire. And most of the time I had that scrambled up like eggs
Sure.
at IHOP.
Sure.
It was fire was first, and then, family because I didn't have faith.
Right.
At that point. So it is easy to really screw that up, and that's why I think now, after all the times I've went and wanted to make every call, and looking back, going like, man, I missed a lot of birthdays. Man, I missed a lot
Yeah.
of things. Now that I'm getting older and realizing what those things cost me that are not replaceable.
Right.
Like Steve talks about money. Yeah, I made a couple $100 extra that month. but I missed this, I missed this, I missed
Yeah,
this.
exactly.
And
You
now
can't put a
I'm
price on time.
Now I'm seeing where value should have been.
Right.
So now there's quite often, we'll have the grandkids over and I'll go like, no, this is what is most important to me right now. These guys can handle it. I might listen on the radio.
Sure.
And if I go like, I really ought to go to that, then I'll go. But there's another problem on me is most of the time when I listen on the radio, I know who's on the scene and I know they are fully capable.
Right.
Yeah.
Right.
They don't need me there babysitting. They know their jobs. They do it well, and I completely trust them.
Yeah.
Well, you said something that I think really I want to come back to, Rich, because you talked about Chief Drake talking about faith first, then our family, then fire, and sometimes I think we struggle with that because we look at it as, well, I always have to have faith first, and then my family, and so if fire happens to be first, somehow I got this all messed up. And the truth is, our faith, when we say faith, it's our relationship with God. We say first, but really it's just a part of everything automatically.
Faith
right?
always. Yeah.
But, right. So then you go, okay, so which is it? Is it family or fire? Well, apparently I did it wrong because I left my kid's birthday party to do fire. And what I've even, because we think about this even as a pastor, it's seasons. It's what's going on. Because there are times that fire is going to consume me. There are times that I might be taking a class, and for the week I'm in class, and then I got homework, and then I barely see my family. When I was going through the academy, my first, Olivia, you guys saw her. She was just a baby, and this is not don't comment. You shouldn't do that. I would come home in the middle, late at night, because I go to work all day. Then I get off and go to the academy, or I go to for my medical license. A whole year of this, and my daughter's just born, and so Amy would wake her up, spend a little bit of time with her, and then really the only way I get to see her is we'd put her in bed with us so that I would be with her. That was a year of putting fire first.
Right. Yeah. Well, I think you got to
kind of got to look at it in seasons, right?
Well, you got to look at it as a look at it like a guide, not as a policy, right? It's not faith, family, fire. It's in best case scenario, faith always put your family before your work. Best case scenario, but there's always exceptions to the rule. It's kind of a letter of the law versus spirit of the law. If this is the law, the spirit of it is, make sure your priorities are right.
I would just argue that it needs to be balanced.
No, and I totally agree.
Rather than because when you look at that, stresses people out, and they go, well, I'm
right.
Because even if you say, well, this is normally, no, just balance. You're going to have times where it's all fire, and then you're going to have times where you feel bad because you're not doing fire, but it's time to put that rest time and that family time in.
Well, I think what this really goes to, and the crux of this is really, we're talking about obligation versus excess, right? Because we have an obligation to our careers, right? We sign up for something, whatever your career is, you sign up for, hey, this is what we expect of you, right? But when does it become excess or becomes harmful, where you're doing what you don't have to do?
Right.
You're taking that to another level. That's kind of what we're talking about. And just for the viewer, it's something that came up.
Well, but here's the thought: what if you're not? Because that's what we've made it, but that's not what the topic is.
Well, it's about the demanding. It's about demanding career.
I'm being serious though. You're right. If our career is demanding, it couldn't be even that our career is demanding enough that we don't have a choice in the matter.
Sure.
Right? So how do we deal with this?
Well, I think there's always a choice in the matter.
Well, you can find a different career.
Well, you can.
Well,
and again,
that's one of them.
It goes back it goes back to the priorities, right?
But I'm just saying, I don't want to throw this off as we're only talking to people who are just automatically putting too much on their plate.
Well, I think first off, when you're talking about the obligation, you know when you sign up, let's just say the paid on call, like you were talking about, or let's say Rich, you having to run at nights, you know what you're signing up for. You understand that going into it. I guess what we're talking about, the demanding career, and you, when you get involved and you know what you're signing up for, you know what you're having to do. What we're talking about at the time too is sometimes people take that career and make it more demanding than it needs to be because they do the excess that they don't need to do. So you know what you're signing up for. And you learn and you find you're right. How do we find ways to deal with that demanding career? Because you signed up for all of this busyness and you get this burnout and stuff like that. So what can we do? I guess
Right, that's what we're trying to get to, right? Yeah.
Well, and I think when you talk about the demanding career, there's different areas you can go with
Exactly.
it because it's the demanding is the career in itself, meaning the job, and then the demanding can also be the excess that we do to make it more demanding, and the burnout happens and all that kind of stuff, like by working too much and all these kind of things. So I think, some of the things is we definitely have to find rest in our careers. We have to have and be able to find those days where we say, I just got to find rest. I cannot run calls today. I'm exhausted.
So how do we do that though? Like really, how do we do that?
I think first and foremost,
Because we've really talked around this whole thing. We've never actually said how we do that. Like Chief said, well, it's hard for me, but how do you do it? What do you do? Like, let's give some
I have to say no.
advice.
yeah.
When do you decide to say no?
That's and I guess really that can change.
Well,
Because like right now, I've got 4 meetings a month that I go to that are fire related. It's probably going to be 5. So that's, I'm there 6 to 4:30. Plus then on top of that, if I go on every Thursday, I got a meeting from 6:30 to 8:30. I'm pretty much at the fire department 5 days straight, if you want to look at it that way.
Yeah.
So sometimes there's just a point where unfortunately you got to say, I can't do that.
Well, let me ask you a question. And I the guys that, like, okay, you're talking about running calls. The guys that don't show up all the time, and I don't want to get into like the lazy guys, the guys that are just assured people, all that, but I'm saying, are there people that do it a different way? Meaning there are guys that generally show up, but they don't always show up, and there's reasons why. Like you say, you show up, like you PJ, you show up to as many as you possibly can, right? But the guys that don't show up all the time, are they doing something and saying to themselves, I am making balance for my life? I mean, are they saying, hey man, I'll run these days, I can run, but there's just times I got to say I can't run calls? I mean, are there people doing it?
I think my opinion is that I think there are. So when I look at the departments that I'm very, very understanding of or involved with, whatever, they would say that they are. But most of us would just say they're uncommitted to the fire department.
Yeah, that's I guess that's where I was getting. Is it an uncommitted, or they're the guys that just don't want to do it?
I don't know anybody that I would consider committed to the fire department who I look at and go, okay, they're not here because they've made a conscious decision that this is Monday night and I'm not running a call or whatever, Now there's always I'm going to my kid's game, or I'm doing this or I'm doing that, so I'm not around. There's that. But as far as somebody who's intentionally saying I'm not running, for me, we have had to make intentional choices as a family and find things, because when we talk about a demanding career, being a pastor, that's a demanding career. And so you just have to find things. I could be busy with the fire department and pastoring every day of the week.
Yeah.
Is the way it is. So we've had to be intentional, and we've had to find things. There's a saying I like to use, you spend money to buy time. And we have made a decision to spend money to buy time with our kids. Now our kids are little, but what that means is we've done some things so that now we spend money, so we intentionally go and do it and
Isn't it
spend
also
that
true,
time.
though, that
taking time off is taking vacation with your
you
family.
spend money to buy time, but isn't it true too that you're selling time? You're selling time to get money.
Yeah, the other side of that is you
the
sell
other side
time
of
to
that
get
is-
money.
Yeah.
Right.
Yeah, exactly.
Right. But it's not just not vacation. It's literally like because of
Carving out time.
Because if I didn't spend some money to have a specific reason, we wouldn't. We're busy. We would. go all the time.
So you're intentionally carving out time.
Right. And
just
for us, we needed to spend the money. So I'll just say what it
he's
is.
saying like
Right.
to get away from not only the church, but
Yeah.
to be far enough away from the fire
Exactly.
department that it's not going to, you couldn't run to that call.
That's exactly
If you
it.
wanted
I
to.
can't
So
respond
is
to
that-
things at church, and I couldn't run the call because I'm too far away.
Right. Is it possible to be committed and not make all the calls?
Absolutely, it is.
Well, I guess that's where we're kind of getting to.
So
a
it
little
goes back
bit
to
of,
prioritizing your time.
Well, that's what I think where it is that if you say that I'm committed, but I also have to have that time away.
right.
You're still
But how many is like, so for me, how much time have I given up with my family to take classes and to learn and to train?
Yeah.
How much time have I given up to run? Right. It gets, so basically what I'm saying is, have I proven I'm committed? Yes. So when I'm not there, I still feel bad. I hate it when I'm gone, and like we were gone the other as we're recording this yesterday, I was gone far enough away on purpose that I could not respond to calls and I could not do my other job. And we had two different calls that I was like, ooh, I should have been there for that.
Yeah.
But I got to ask you because you said something interesting. You said, I've proven that I'm committed.
Right.
To who?
To the department. People, the department understands
is their
me.
perspective of it the same as your perspective?
Yes.
In your mind, is their idea of committed the same idea that you? Is it a shared idea, or
Yes.
do you hold that standard at a higher level than they do?
Well,
Or do they hold that to a higher standard than you do?
that's a good question. No,
I guess who defines committed?
I think I hold it to a higher standard than they do generally. I mean, so I say that by saying when you look at the other guys and you look at the runs they do or don't make, and they're fine, and then part of it is because of the fact that I can run during the day, but even at night, I make more calls. So just when you look at the call volume, these people are okay. So I'm definitely okay.
Right,
Plus, I do pretty much any extra thing that I'm asked to do. If I can do it, I do it.
Sure. So in your mind, you run like this comparison analysis of where am I at compared to the rest of the department.
Well,
And
not
if I'm-
necessarily.
and if I'm up here, then I'm in my mind, I'm
You can do
committed.
that. But what I'm saying is we actually, because of the way people reach out, like I said, people expect the officers just kind of, well, Josh will be there. Josh is,
Right.
if
Yep.
I'm not there, they're more surprised
Yeah.
that I'm not
Sure.
there.
Sure.
So that's where you get that level of they understand that I'm in.
So I want to ask this then. Can you run, let's say you have 300 calls in a year. It could be way more than that. I don't know. I'm just throwing a number out there for an example. Can somebody who runs 150 of those calls a year still be considered committed?
They very easily could be, yes.
If they only run,
But I think
if
it's
they
more
only
than
run-
just running calls.
If they only run 25 of those calls, are they committed?
It depends on what they're doing.
Yeah.
Now, in our department, no, but in our department, you're supposed to be fired.
I guess what I'm trying to get at is it acceptable for somebody? So
well, let
Let me go
me
back-
answer
well,
it this
hold on.
way. Let me answer it this
Go
way. If you run 25 calls a year, and I got to say this really carefully because I know there's departments in places that they might get 25 calls a year, right? So I say this very carefully. Because I don't want to. We know what it's like when you talk to big city full-time guys. Like, oh, they're better. That's not how I mean this, but I know for me, if I ran 25 calls a year, when the chief doesn't show up, I'm in trouble because I don't have a clue what I'm doing. Because in this career, there's got to be repetition.
Yeah.
You've got to be able to be there and be in. Committed is not just showing up. It's being able to perform when you show up because every department has those guys that show up.
sure.
Then they don't know what they're doing.
Well,
And you got to
if
be able to
they-
work with your team members
You got to be able to
too.
work
No,
with
and
your
I
team
totally agree.
members.
I guess, again, it goes back in my mind to, priorities and your whole perspective of it. What is committed in your mind may be something totally different for somebody else.
Exactly.
Well,
And they may be fully capable as capable as you and make only 25 of those calls of the 300, and you make 280 of them, right?
Right.
I
But
think
they're not going to be as capable as me.
Well,
Even if they normally were, they're not going to be by nature of they don't know where anything is on the truck. They don't know how to use the equipment, because when you only show up 25 times out of 300, you're
Well,
not
what if
you
they're
don't
showing
get
up to
the
trainings, though?
repetition.
What if they're stopping by the station on the weekends or just to
It's
check
not
out?
the same.
Well-
It's not reps.
Well, I mean, it's
Yeah.
not.
Why are we
it's
on
not-
this topic?
Yeah, no, hold on. Wait, let me jump in because I know we're getting kind of late on time. But hold
we
on.
are.
We're
I
way
want
over.
to finish this point though. I think commitment and this I think it's far more.
This is going to be a great one. Everybody's going to love it.
Well,
It's far more fluid than
I agree with you.
It's
I agree
not
with you.
black and white.
Well,
There's a
no.
lot of gray.
But hold
area.
on.
No, I would agree 100%
I would
with
like to
that.
do this. I would love to do this. Can we continue this on a part 2? Because
To be continued?
I would actually know. Well, I want us to be able to stop because there's so much more to talk about. Because this is a really good. I think this is a really important subject.
Right.
And I think you're hitting on something because this kind of went down more of a road than I was expecting. So, I think what you're talking about, and we can leave it here and we can continue because I want to do. Let's do a part 2. I think what you're saying is. What you're trying to say is, what is the department obligation? Like, what is
Right.
the department saying, this is what we require of you, versus what you as the individual are putting into it? Because if the department's saying, I just want you to run, 1 call a week, and you're doing 10, well,
Is
now
it still 70%?
no, I'm just saying, I'm using an
That
example.
would show up for 1 call a week.
Hold on,
I'd
I'm just
consider
using-
them
hold on,
in,
They're
man.
pretty. Yeah,
I'm
they're pretty
using an
committed.
example. Just an
I know,
example.
I know.
What I'm saying is it if you're doing this, then you're doing it on yourself by when the commitment technically is the fire chief says this is what the commitment level is here, what I'm requiring of you,
Right.
and you're going balls out and doing like 3 times that. That is you on the individual taking it to a level that it's unhealthy. Or you know what I mean? Then what is the technical commitment? So that's what I think is where we go back to obligation versus excess a little bit too. But why don't we do this? Because again, we're getting out of time here. Let's continue this because I think this is an important discussion because there's more to talk about here that I was actually going to talk about, but I don't want to keep dragging this on because people are going to fall asleep if they do. What do you think? Should we do that, or do you want to?
I don't know that we ever answered anything.
Well, that's why we
Honestly, like,
Well, that's why,
the point was to say how we do this, and we didn't. We got down.
Well, I'm sorry. What was the original?
Well, the original
question
thing
again?
was how do you handle a demanding job, right? Like how do you find rest in a demanding job? And I was originally just going to go down the road of like some of the things that we can do just in a job in general, like meaning like taking time off and getting rest. But I think
So in turn of talking about how we're going to rest,
We talked about
turned
commitment.
around saying, how dare you rest?
That,
in a sense,
but that
yeah.
was going to be full circle of
Yeah,
where
that's-
I was
that's where
going
we're
with
gonna-
everything.
yeah.
That's why I kept talking about perspective. Is who are any of us to say, well, how dare you take that rest? You're not committed. You're
Right.
not committed.
But that's not what you were asking me, because I'm 100% with you, but that's not what you were asking me.
Well, no, like I said, that was
'Cause
that was the end game of where I
I
was
knew where you
trying
were
to go
going,
with.
but you were not, like, that's different. It's 2 different things.
okay.
It's 2 different things, because I would never fault somebody for taking a break or taking a rest, but that's totally different than not being committed.
I think
You're
it's the
talking,
same.
no, it's not. You're
I think
talking
it's the
to a
same.
guy that gets tired of watching, and this happens everywhere. Talk to Chief. People sign up and they never show up. That's a totally different thing.
No, that's a totally different thing.
Yeah.
I agree that that's a totally different thing. I think if you have somebody who is active as they can be, whether that's to your standard or not, they're as active as they can be.
Active as they can be is not committed, though. Not necessarily.
Okay, they're as committed as they can be.
Because I can be as active as I can be,
Okay.
and that might not be very much because I'm committed to this other thing. Right? So let's say this. Let's just use this. I'm as active as I can be. I show up to every single call I possibly can. My commitment is to my kid who's on traveling ball, and we're gone
Sure.
4 days a week. So I'm showing up as much as I can, but I'm not even committed because
I think we're playing
commitment is
semantics
elsewhere.
now.
Well, yeah,
I know we are,
really
but
do.
what I'm saying
think we're
is,
playing
like, we gotta
because
think
you're
this-
as committed to that as you can be, and
Right.
you're as committed to this as
But
you
it's
can be.
two different-
But
it's two
this
different
is a
things.
bigger
and
commitment
then this
than
gets
this.
it also gets into the original thing I talked about with careers is everybody sees career differently and everybody has a
100%.
different perspective.
Yeah, 100%.
Because some people, like you were saying, some people are fully committed in the sense that they want to do the very best at every given moment. And some people go, well, my career is important, but there's other things that are important as well, where it's like, I don't want to do and put the excess in.
So-
I choose not to. and I'm not taking away from the people that do.
No.
I'm saying is that as an individual, they just see it and
Right.
view it differently.
Right.
It's different for everybody.
That's- yeah.
But what
Again, that
what
was-
Josh was trying to say is in the paid on call world, it is difficult. You are in a tough situation because you do have a full-time position, and then you have this thing with the fire department that is a 24-hour, 7-day-a-week thing. Because the calls don't
Right.
choose to come, but they come when they come, right? And now we have to find in that career, how do we find that balance? What can we do in that career of the paid on call? Because we're talking about something specific, right? Because like you
sure.
said before, in the paid world, that's an easy answer. You have your 1 day on and 2 days, whatever your shift schedule is, and then Then we talk about that. What do? You get time off. You make sure you have rest. But in the paid on call world is a little bit different.
Sure.
So we're talking about something like we kind of went to a specific thing,
Right.
And we're stuck on the specific thing. But when I was trying to make it more broad, but you're right. The paid on call world, it's really finding that, like, what do you do to still stay committed?
Well, here's
but-
what makes it hard though, because to Jake's point is, and I'm just arguing with Jake for the fun of arguing with Jake.
I love-
everybody knows that.
Yeah,
right?
this is
I
so
hope
good.
everybody-
Actually, I'm like-
I
So
hope
can we do
everybody
a part
knows
2?
that.
We're already 50 minutes into the show.
I know.
I am
that.
such a
That's why we get the part two.
I
confrontational
know.
person that I love it. So
right. I know
it's like,
we can sit here and argue, and it doesn't matter.
yeah.
Like, it's just so
Oh, no,
people
it's just-
listening
it's-
understand. We're not mad at each other
Oh, no,
at
no,
all.
this is
No, not
great.
at all, not
Actually,
at all.
I mean,
And I forgot what point I was going to make because I wanted people to understand that if we're sitting here arguing,
I
it's
love-
just for the fun of it.
it's like apologist.
Yeah,
you know what I mean?
yeah.
I love it so much.
But really, let's get a part 2. I think we should continue this
Oh,
discussion.
I know what it was.
Yeah.
So that's the
right.
difficulty of no, we don't need a part 2. We're going to answer it.
All right. Okay.
That's-
Let's answer it.
Let's
We're
finish it
already here.
out.
All right.
Let's finish it out.
If now I'm going to argue with you.
I know. My goodness.
Hey, Steve,
So-
what do you want on your pizza? Apparently, we're spending the night here.
You guys can go. We'll
It's
finish this
only-
out.
I'm about to.
Oh,
It's
man.
only 7:30 in the morning. Got all day.
And I've already been at work for an hour and a half.
So, anyways, kind of to your point is even that almost makes it harder because there's this pressure of wanting like people to understand you're committed, and then we find as well. Now I'm busy with all this, and I haven't been showing up for
Right.
stuff at the fire department.
Right.
Like there's just so much there, and it's really a matter of we've got to be intentional about what we're doing.
Exactly. No, I agree. It's being intentional with that time. Commitment is like focus. You cannot focus 100% of your.
Keep going.
He's looking around.
You cannot give 100% of your focus on multiple things.
Right.
You can only give 100% of your
Right.
focus on one thing at a time. And so you need to be, and if you give 100% of your focus to a fire department, your career, whatever, you need to be good at breaking it up to where to now trying to answer your question of being intentional with your time, because you need to give 100% of that focus to God at
Right.
times,
Right.
to your job at times. And so to answer your question, take the time, get in the Word, read your Bible,
Yeah, pray about it.
pray about it. Spend time in the Word more than anything. You will find more rest in that than you will anything
Sure,
else.
but also just make sure you're taking some time away. You're finding rest. You're taking the vacation time. You know, like if you have
I
vacation
need some
time.
rust after this episode.
Yeah, I know. You know.
Oh, it's a good one.
Yeah, it's a good one.
I know. It's fun.
Yeah, it's fun.
No, it's good.
Okay. Well, we're gonna wrap this bad boy up because this is.
Hey, usually we
didn't
run
need
out
to-
of steam by the end of
I
the
know,
month. We
I
didn't
know.
run out of
But-
steam tonight. That was good.
I've
was
got
the
a
last
couple
episode
questions that I haven't been able to ask yet.
Okay.
So go to Red Flannel Coffee. No, I'm just kidding. Go ahead.
I'm joking. I was gonna try to poke the bear, but it's already.
You want to go? we
My
can go
bedtime
another
alarm
hour.
went off 45 minutes ago.
We're good now. I mean, we've got it.
I'm
we
a
got it all
geriatric.
covered.
Good.
Sun's going
That's
down.
why I don't want to do a
All
part
right.
2. All we're going to do is poke the bear again.
All
We're
right,
gonna go.
all right. Okay.
I know,
No
it's
part
fun
two.
to listen to you guys argue like a couple
and actually,
girlfriends.
I don't want to do part 2 because I think it won't have the same steam that it had.
do you know?
That's true.
Are you
That is
not
true.
dedicated?
This
No, not at all. I took the last month off. Of course, I'm not.
Where's your
dedicated
dedication?
to my family?
That's funny.
Faith,
Okay.
family, fire.
So you don't want to go part 2?
No.
And get deeper?
No.
Because I'll be
Man,
ready next week. I'll bring it on, baby.
I know. This is
You already
really
said
good.
you're geriatric. We know better.
Okay. Okay. Hey, we're Ben, this plane is, this thing exploded.
Yeah.
I got out of fuel.
I got laxatives I got
I
to
think I need
take.
some red flannel coffee.
We need another plane to pick us up and just transfer us from one plane to another one. Yes. So hey, thank you so much. If you have any questions, concerns, you have prayer requests, anything you want to do, please reach out to us at our email address, ffifpodcast@gmail.com. Make sure that you look us up on YouTube, anywhere that you enjoy podcasts.
That's my favorite part. Sorry, go ahead.
Okay, and anywhere you enjoy podcasts, you can listen to us over there. And please comment if you need to. Please enjoy it, share it with anybody, like it so it gets out there in the stratosphere of the internet. And then Jake,
In the internets,
internets,
all of them.
all of them.
Go to redflannelcoffeeco.com. Use PJ30 for promo. Get 30% off your coffee. That's it.
Set.
No
All
argument. No arguing that. You just get it. I ain't gonna fight you for it.
We'll see you guys in July. So thank you so much. Take care.
Rich didn't get to.
Oh, yeah. And don't forget that Monday is the 12th anniversary of the guys that died on Canal Hill.
Yeah. All right. Bye.